Hello, I'm Hugh Gilmore. I'm here with Claire, who you know, obviously working as an educational psychologist. I'm going to run through some of the tenets of motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is all about trying to get at what's underneath the child and how they're feeling, or the person, about what the changes are in their lives that they might want to make or might not want to make. And as we go through this is going to demonstrate the O's, the skills that you might be familiar with already: open questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. There's also going to be maybe in there some complex reflections, which are deeper reflections and more impactful. And there's also going to be in there probably complex affirmations, because there's complex and simple affirmations. Outside of the skills, there's actually much more important things in MI, which is the spirit of MI, or as I like to call it, the philosophy, which makes up the acronym PACE: partnership, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. And these elements are the underpinning values that you enter a conversation with. We've all gone into a room in a bad mood and coming out with a worse result than we expected. And I do that quite often myself. And you might think, well, why does he do that? Because this is actually hard work. It takes you to put in a bit of effort to listen like this. It's not easy. So trying to enter the room with partnership, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. And if you take that out of this, you might actually get a lot further than you would do with just the basic skills. So look out to see what you see. There'll also be mistakes in this, which I'll highlight later, because no one's perfect and you will have to navigate a conversation as it comes up. So we're going to enter into role play or real play, where Claire's going to take on the role of a reluctant 13-year-old girl who's just come down from their room and the mother has referred them in for support. So we'll start off now in a minute. Hello, Claire. I'm Hugh. Your mum's brought me in to speak to you. I'm an educational psychologist. I I know you probably didn't want to come down out of your room. You're probably a little bit worried about chatting to me. Yeah, I understand that. There's nothing to be scared about. I actually just want to understand you and what you're going through. I know it's definitely not, easy being a 13-year-old, especially not a 13-year-old at school. I can see why you wouldn't want to go there. It's difficult.
No, and I said to Mum, like, I'm not going back, and I told the other people, I'm not going back.
There's no way you're going back at all. You definitely don't want to go there.
Mhm.
It's been a difficult experience there for you.
Yeah.
Well, what's the worst that's happened?
Um, I just, um, like, I just hate it. I, I like, I can't, can't stand it. I don't fit in, and I have, I have a lot of anxiety, and it's not for me. I've had enough.
You've had enough. I can understand why why you don't want to go there if you don't fit in and you hate it. It's causing you all this anxiety.
Mhm.
How long have you been avoiding school now?
Well, I didn't go back after the summer. Like, I tried in year 8, and it was just really hard. And then last year, I suppose after the Christmas exams, I I just didn't want to go in the mornings, and the teacher, she said you can start later, and that was better because I don't sleep very well, you know. And
Mhm.
then it was hard going back after the holidays, and then just after the summer, I just couldn't. I can't anymore. Like, I can't.
You've been trying really hard to go to school,
Yeah, yeah,
and despite you not liking it, not fitting in, feeling this anxiety, not sleeping, you've kept trying to go back, and actually now you're empty. You can't go back.
yeah. And like, I feel bad. Mum, mum and daddy think you know, need all this help, and I don't want the help because I don't want to go back. I've told them.
Yeah, you don't want any help to go back, and you feel bad because your mum and dad are obviously concerned about you. They care about you.
Yeah, yeah. Mm,
Yeah. Uh,
just want them to leave me alone. I want them all to leave me alone, and they keep bringing these people out to the house, and like, it's not going to change anything. Like, school's still school, and I'm still me.
you're still you. Claire, can I say thanks for talking to me about this? I'm sure other people have talked to you about this, and you probably just don't want another conversation with another person about this. So thanks. Um, I am a little bit curious. If there was anything I could do to help you, what would that be?
Make everybody go away.
Yeah.
Everybody just comes, and I know I have to go back, and I know mommy and daddy are worried about, like, they'll get into trouble, if I don't go back.
Mhm.
But it's like, it's awful, and everybody else is okay in school, and when I was there, I just am sitting in the classes and I feel sick,
Mhm.
and like, I, the breaks and stuff are worse.
Mhm. Uh,
I don't know what you could do. I don't think there's anything you could do. There's nothing anybody can do.
I'm wondering, you feel sick, and the breaks are worse, and it's other people that are the problem here. Um, and you're feeling it. Are you being bullied?
No, like, sometimes I think it would be easier if I'd had a big fight with somebody, or if folk were being mean. Like, they're not. They're just, I don't fit in. It's not like anybody's doing anything on me.
Yeah.
Um, like, I just, like, when I was in class, I just was so loud, and I don't like feeling like I don't like I don't like the uniform, and I don't like feeling even like the paper on hands, and just like,
Too much.
yeah, it's too much, and I
Much.
can't keep up, and I if they call on me, I don't know what to say. And I just used to run out, and then I would go in to the toilet and text mom and just like, come get me.
Mhm. You you're finding yourself being overwhelmed by the noise, by the people, by the paper, and it's just everything at once. If it was one thing, you might be able to deal with it, but everything at once is too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Claire, I'm a little bit curious. Why have you tried so hard to go back to school so many times? But why did you try so hard to go back?
because that's what you do. And like I want to go. I want to be like everybody else. I just can't. And
Mhm,
when they started to get people out, I would think, well, maybe maybe I'll get better,
mhm,
but I haven't got better. And then talked to my friends online, and like a lot of them don't go, and they're like, you know, like I can go back when I'm older, like maybe I'll be better then.
yeah,
Um, like I know I need my GCSEs, I know that. And like I don't know what I want to do, but like
mhm,
primary school, people would say I was smart.
mhm,
Like, but I don't go out anywhere anymore.
yeah. So I, I'm I'm wondering why is it you want to go back when you're older?
Maybe I'll be better.
So
Like,
you want to be better?
mm, I don't know. Like, feel sad a lot of the time.
Yeah,
And I I don't see I don't see my friends in school anymore. Really, like they
yeah,
do their own thing. Um, and I wish it wasn't like this. And I know mommy and daddy are upset,
mhm,
and we don't do stuff because of me.
mhm. You're putting a lot of weight on your shoulders there, taking a lot of responsibility for caring for your parents' feelings as well as your own.
It's my fault.
What have you done wrong?
I can't get better.
And is it your responsibility to get better? But are you to blame for being like this?
No, I don't see who else's fault it is.
Yeah, you know, you have obviously tried really hard, and you're also caring about your parents as much as they care about you. You're worried how this impacts them, and you're also putting a lot of blame on yourself for how you're feeling right now, and that's probably making you feel worse than actually how you felt anyway. But I am wondering, if you're like this now, what was it like before when you were all right going into school? What was it like when you started out? What's changed for you?
Um, when I went to big school, it was really different. My old school, my primary school was eh, I didn't love it, but it was okay. I knew where everything was and I knew who everyone was and they knew me. And then big school is really big. Um,
Mm,
and there's a lot, like, you have a lot of subjects and a lot of teachers and a lot of different classes. And
hmm
there's always a lot going on and the bells and like it's a lot. And I just always felt like I was swallowed up and I couldn't think and I couldn't do what I used to be able to do in primary and it just got too hard.
hmm
And I suppose I just couldn't face it anymore. I just wanted to break.
Mm, yeah, you need a break from it. You know, there's a lot of things going on there, and between feeling as if you don't fit in, and I wonder how many other people feel as if they don't fit in. I know I don't feel as if I fit in, but I wonder how many other people in there don't fit in and are overwhelmed by all this new stuff. But has there been days where you know it's gone really badly, and days where it's gone okay, or days where it's even gone good? Is there, or is it all every day bad?
Well, the worst one was like I was sick quite a lot.
Hmm.
And that was bad. I was sick in the corridor once and
Right.
everybody saw.
Yeah.
And then,
You felt embarrassed.
yeah, and then um, there were like, I like art
Mm,
and art was good because like the teacher was cool and he let you sit, just with your friends and that like you had longer lessons so you could just sit and you didn't need to talk or he would just come around and you could, show him what he'd done. I like that. I did like that. I miss that.
yeah.
But it was mostly uh like hard and then I suppose after I was getting sick, it was getting harder then and I just yeah, I was embarrassed.
Hmm. Have you been sick more than once?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm. Like we spend all day trying not to be sick and then makes it hard to concentrate on anything else.
Hmm. So you would go back and you wouldn't mind suffering the difficulty if you could do art all day,
They're not gonna let you do that.
but that's what you would like to do.
Yeah, I like art.
Hmm.
Yeah, like you can't, you have to do the other stuff with it, and
Mm.
like it's just sort of think like, you know, maybe I can just do it all when I'm older, when I'm better.
Yeah. You want to go back when other people aren't there.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that'd be nice.
Are you doing art at home? Do you draw
Yeah,
at home?
do, but
Mhm.
I've got like my granny got me some sketchbooks, and I do that. Um, yes, It's cool to do it at night as well because, like, it's hard to get to sleep. So I just draw a bit.
Mm. Yeah. Your granny knows what you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you draw?
Oh, just, well, not very good. Like, just figures, and I like anime, and
Mhm.
so I like doing that. Um, I have a package on my tablet as well, and you can do like really cool things with that too. Like,
Mhm.
and I like them both.
So, wait a minute, you like art, and you like technology?
You say that like all the adults said, like you shouldn't like technology. Yeah, like I do. It's really cool. I don't know if you've seen any of the like some of the art packages you can get, but
Mhm.
it's really fun. But it's nice. It's nice to be able to like have your own drawing
Mm.
skills too.
Mm. I was thinking of getting one of these tablets actually, and I can't decide what one to get. I'm very stuck. What do you have?
I've got an iPad.
An iPad, yeah. And do you have a pencil or a brush for it or what?
Yeah, I've got like a drawing pencil.
Mhm. Okay. Would you recommend it? Yeah.
Yeah, do you like art? Like
Well,
drawing?
I do like to draw some things, but I'm not very good at it. There's diagrams and stuff I want to draw, and for taking notes when I chat to people like you who give me good advice.
You could probably find somebody better than me to tell you, but it's cool.
Mhm. If you didn't know what you were drawing and you were just drawing, you didn't know what it was going to be, but you were just drawing. What do you enjoy about it?
Because nobody's making me do anything,
Hmm.
and I just like it.
Yeah,
Like it's it's beautiful.
it's
Like,
free.
yeah,
It sets
and
you free.
well,
It sets you free.
yeah. There's no noise, and you can just be. That's nice.
Hmm. Do you know what? It sounds very much to me like drawing's your superpower, and that helps you cope. That helps you feel good about the day, and it gets you away from all the bigness and loudness and noisiness that's out there.
Mhm.
And no one's telling you what to do. But I don't know. I'd imagine you might have other superpowers. Is there something else that gives you that feeling as well? Is there another thing that you do?
Mhm. I like reading.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like reading.
or like whole words.
Yeah, and some stories, some the books we used to do, and some of them
Hmm.
were really good. Um, suppose stuff by myself.
Yeah. So you're probably in the school library at lunchtime then all the time when you were in.
I like the life. Yeah,
Yeah.
then sometimes you're not allowed in it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
What is it about reading and going there that sets you free?
sometimes you Why, like, if you've got a good character, you know, it's interesting reading their story and,
Mhm.
like, how they get out of things maybe. Or sometimes, like, maybe it just takes you to another place. Like, I like fantasy stuff. Like, it's just a different world, and that takes me out of this one.
Mm. Do you know what? I'm kind of wondering, is there a story about you? If there was a story and you were the main character, what would the story be?
Mm, I have a good family. Mm, I'm sorry I caused all the trouble.
What trouble have you caused?
Mm, I know my parents are upset.
Mhm.
They might get into trouble because I can't go to school.
Mm.
Um, I wish there was a magic wand,
Mhm.
but there isn't.
Yeah.
But I just keep like maybe if because there's loads of people like me, and maybe just if things changed and they realised that lots of us didn't have to go to school, like we'd all be okay.
Mhm. You know, this main character has a family that cares about them. Their granny cares about them. Parents care about them. This main character thinks they're doing the whole thing wrong and causing a lot of difficulty when actually they're just not well at the moment. They're just not having a great time. And if the main character had a broken leg, they wouldn't be too concerned about all of the difficulty that they're causing because they need carted about left, right, and centre because they couldn't walk, you know? And the parents would do that because they care about them. I think that's what a good family is just they care about you. Maybe too much at times, but your parents are doing all the right things because, you know, you're here talking to me and we're having a conversation trying to understand what's going on for you and why you're working so hard to trap yourself in your room and why you've worked so hard to keep going back to school. You know, you've tried it that many times, you've tired yourself out and you're just trapping yourself in your room, taking your freedom away.
Yeah,
Must be difficult.
it's difficult. I just wish I was somebody else.
Mhm. Who else would it be?
Somebody that could do stuff. You know, I could just just sit there and get it over with and not be sick and not be thinking about it all the time.
Mhm.
Like just being normal.
Mhm. When you say you're thinking about it all the time, that doesn't happen when you read or when you draw. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's most of the time, and
Yeah.
you've got those things to set you free.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it like that, but you can't do that in school.
Mhm. What do you do when you're not in school that sets you free?
I come up to my room And I might draw. Probably don't read that much now. But I might go online, like I watch videos and got friends
Mhm,
in lots of different countries, so we would chat.
mhm.
So not much.
Mm. You prefer being at home in your room?
Mhm. Mhm.
Is it is there stuff in your room that you can't do that you wanna do?
No, really. Like I've got everything I need here.
Mhm.
Okay.
What's what's the difference between what you've got now, you've got everything you need, but you wanna go back to school in the future? What do you need in the future from school?
Mhm. Everybody keeps telling me, and I know, like I need my GCSEs, get a job. Um,
Mhm,
like yeah, I know that, but they don't get it. Like, um, and maybe just if I like just get older, like I can go back. I can go back and do the exams when I'm older,
mhm,
but I don't have to go.
yeah. So you've got at 13, you need to stay in your room for 5 years, and then you can decide what you wanna do yourself.
I know it sounds mad, but yeah,
Why does it sound mad?
just when you say it like that, and just stay in your room for 5 years, like uh, I mean, I haven't really thought about how long I'd stay here. It's more like I don't want them to make me go now.
Mm, you don't wanna be forced to go,
Yeah,
but you wanna go, but you just don't wanna be forced to go.
I wanna, if I felt normal, I'd probably go.
Mm. Mm, kinda I just got this idea that, if I had a caterpillar, I couldn't force it to become a butterfly. I would have to go into the cocoon itself, you can't force it. Um, when you say about feeling normal, what do you mean by that? Because I don't feel like you and you don't feel like me because we're different. But who's this person called normal?
Everybody else,
Want to feel like everybody else? What if they feel like you?
they don't.
They don't. Right, okay. Do any of them feel like you?
Some of my friends online feel like me,
Hmm.
like so we can talk to each other, and it's the same for them. Like they're different in their skills, and they don't fit in either. But we have each other.
Why do you not want to feel like your friends online then? If they're your friends?
I don't know. Like, they're not here.
Is there something magical about all the people in school that you want to feel like them as opposed to your friends?
Suppose they can do it. They're not. They're not being sick.
Mhm.
They're not getting people into the house. They're not being made to go to the doctor.
Mhm.
Like, that's why I think they're normal and I'm not.
Yeah. It's quite the pickle, isn't it? This main character's trapped in the room for 5 years, wanting to be like people they're not friends with.
And it's sad.
Does it?
Like, if it was a character, I'd probably feel a bit sorry for her.
Mhm. Do you feel sorry for yourself?
Not really. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Is it is what it is?
Not do anything about it. I was sorry for my mommy and daddy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they probably didn't want this. I just feel bad.
Mm-hmm. Why has your mum got me into the house?
And I don't even really know who you are. You're just the next one. Like, I keep getting people to make me go back to school. And she thinks if I get classroom assistant, it'll be okay. I want to go back.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to change anything.
Mm-hmm. There's absolutely nothing that can be done at all. There's no way at all that you could get back to school. There's no changes that can be made other than art,
Yeah,
maybe
like,
library. Other than those three things.
yeah, but it never works like that, you know, because you can't do that.
Mm-hmm. What happens in days when you've got English literature and art? Does that does that change the day for you?
Yeah, yeah, it's so, you know, it's a bit better.
Mm-hmm. But not completely better.
No,
Yeah. Is there anything else that your parents do that make it easy for you?
well, they, they don't push me anymore, you know, they're not at me all the time to go in. And so, like, the mornings were pretty bad. So we don't have that neither, you know. Like, this is just what we do, and it's better. It's better than the fights.
Yeah. It's been difficult for you to be understood by your parents and understood by the teachers and understood by all these people that keep coming out to your door.
Yeah.
None of them understand you really.
No. And then they go again and nothing changes.
Mm-hmm. What has changed with you?
I think I just gave up. Like, I did try,
Mm-hmm.
but it's easier now. I've stopped trying.
Mm-hmm. And you're happy now.
I'm not happy, but like, no, no, been sick all the time. And like, I suppose I think, yeah, like, maybe I'll be better when I'm older.
Yeah. I can't fully understand what it is like for you to go through this. You've got your granny buying you art books because she loves you and cares about you. You've got your parents who've changed. They don't push you to go anymore. Your mum's speaking to people like me, just another person that comes to the door to try and help. And, it's been difficult for you. You've had art and reading taken away from you and access to all those books that, you want to go back there, you want to do these things, but you're having that taken away from you because of how you feel about it. And then you're in your room and you're happy, but you're not happy. You're kind of stuck in the middle until you're older and you can go and do what you want. And you don't know what you want to do later as a job, so that puts you down as an explorer,
Hmm,
you know.
that's kind of nice.
So you're like an explorer trapped in this room.
Yeah. Hmm, yeah, it is, but
What do you think you might like to explore?
hmm, like, maybe someday getting out. Like, if it, if it didn't, if it didn't, if it wasn't like this, that'd be good.
If it wasn't like this, you'd like to get out and explore something then?
Yeah, maybe,
And if this was the main character, what do you think you might do?
maybe, maybe go and see other countries, other cities, and draw what you see.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like I like that. Explore.
Hmm. So I assume you go about the place drawing things outside.
I don't go out much anymore, but like I used to draw stuff that I would see.
Hmm.
Like I used to go to the beach in the summer
Hmm.
and you would draw like out at sea and the birds and everything. I would draw that.
What is it like about the sea and the birds when you draw them?
Suppose it's the free, isn't it? It's free. And they can go anywhere.
Hmm. I wonder in 5 years' time, when you're free from all this, when this is over, and it's in the past, where you'll end up.
Mm, that's nice.
Hmm. Do you know this caterpillar getting forced into the cocoon and comes out the butterfly? Maybe that's you. Maybe you're going to take 5 years in this cocoon and come out. But in that cocoon, you're going to do something that helps you change into the butterfly. Sounds a bit silly, you know. But if you're going to set yourself free in 5 years' time, what can you do at the moment that'll help you get free? What can help you do the things that you want to do in 5 years' time when this is all over? Small things, not big things, like the littlest bits.
Mm, maybe like could I talk to you again?
We could try and see if we can arrange that. Yeah, if you think that would help.
Yeah, yeah, that might help.
Is there a reason you would like to talk to me? Is there something that you want to talk about?
Just you haven't like talked about making me go back to school. That's nice. I suppose it's nice to think about the stuff I like or when I'm older.
Hmm. Yeah. We're talking about what you want, not about what other people want.
Yeah,
I mean, you want to go back to school. It's just not for you at the moment.
yeah.
And you enjoy the art and the reading, and you want to end up free at the end of this, traveling about the place, seeing the world and drawing it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Mm. I suppose you probably speak a couple of languages, do you?
No.
None?
No,
Do
we
you,
have to go to Spanish, but like, I wasn't there very much.
right. Do you know any Spanish at all?
Like, hello, some numbers and stuff. No,
What's Can you say anything in Spanish at all?
Hola.
Hola. What is that? Is that out of a song or something? And that's hello, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Right. Well, I suppose that's good practice when you go to Spain to draw beaches. You'll be saying hello to people.
You're funny.
Right. Some people don't find my jokes funny. People don't pay me for them, so they mustn't be good. Claire, this has been a good conversation for me anyway. Um, I I would like to chat again if we could, and we can chat about whatever you want. I don't know when we can next meet again, but I'll find out and I'll let you know. Between now and then, is there anything that you're concerned about? Let's say I can meet you within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Is there anything you're concerned about in the next 4 weeks?
You mean about school?
Anything?
I'm all right as long as I'm here.
And if you're not all right, what happens?
Mm. Tell mommy,
Okay. And if mum's not around, who would you tell?
daddy.
Okay. And if you go to them, what would be useful for them to help you with when you're not all right?
Like, I don't like loads of questions. Like, if they just sit beside me, and that will pass. Like, usually that's the way it goes.
Okay. So this passes. You just need somebody to sit beside you and be calm when you're going through this yourself. Okay. Is there anything else they could do for you whenever you're not all right?
Mm. I don't think so.
Okay.
Mm.
Can I ask a silly question? Let's imagine this main character, you, somehow magically decide to go back to school between now and then. Probably won't happen, and you know, don't want it to happen. Let's imagine if you did, in this story. What would be different?
Um, they feel normal,
Hmm.
and like they would they would do they'd be doing art,
Hmm.
and they wouldn't be sick. They'd know they would be like everybody else, and they would just be yeah, normal.
Okay.
Like,
So they'd be doing art, they'd feel normal, and they wouldn't be feeling sick. And I'm wondering what would happen. What would the teachers do if you did come in and you were feeling good? And what would the teachers do? Well, that's the first question. I'll just ask one question at a time, as opposed to giving you two.
um, it probably like no shouting
Hmm.
and no surprises,
Hmm.
and you wouldn't get called on. Like,
Hmm.
you could just leave it be.
Yeah. Okay. So they wouldn't ask you questions in front of the class. Wouldn't be any surprises. Be no shouting, and that would make it a bit better. And if you were feeling not great, or this main character was feeling not great, sorry, and they'd gone back to school, what would the teachers need to do to help them?
And probably like not make a fuss
Mhm.
and not like argue, if they needed out or needed the toilet, they could just go, or like it wouldn't be a whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. But Claire, I think there's some interesting stuff there in that story that maybe could be useful if I shared with your parents and with the teachers. Just enough chance that you might go back, but it's not up to me whether or not you go back. And obviously, I want to meet you again, so that would be good to do that and talk about that then. But is it okay for me to share what we talked about with
Hmm.
parents and the teachers?
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything I've forgotten or anything that's you think I should ask or talk about you with that might be useful?
Mm.
Okay. Have you any questions for me?
I don't think so. Like, you're not going to make me go back.
I'm not going to make you go back. No. I think if you want to go back, well, you do want to go back. It's your decision. I
Mm.
think what we want to do is help you make the decision because you've said you want to go back, but it's not for you right now, and it's too much stimulation, too much noise, and you need to feel safe.
Yeah.
Is is there anything that we've talked about that's helped?
Yeah. Like, like the, like the book, the story, because I don't want it to be like this. So it's nice to think maybe it doesn't have to always be like this. And like, I know I love drawing and stuff, but I don't get to talk about it very much. I don't see anybody really. So that was nice. And I liked telling you about Granny. Yeah, it was good.
I have an idea. It's not a good one though. I wonder if next time we meet, you could draw some pictures for me of places you'd like to go when you're 18 in the future.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Cool. I mean, you can write a book as well if you want, but so I'll let your mum know when I can come back and she'll tell you what's going on.
Okay.
Thanks for talking to me. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. You get an Oscar, do you?
Oops, where's the gin?
Right.
That wasn't 10 minutes, was it?
No, I don't know how long it's be. So we could stop the camera and do a little debrief, or we could just talk about that now as is, as what we think about it. Obviously, I've no experience in um, this field, and a number of times I felt a little bit trapped in where I was going because I'm very aware that I don't want to promise anything that I can't promise,
Mm.
and I'm very aware that I was nearly been feeding as part of the system a bit. So I've got a kid there. I'm also thinking from a critical perspective, like if I'm watching that, like I've got terrible dad jokes, and you know how well am I relating to a 13-year-old? I don't know, but I did take some risks in there that those are genuine risks that I would take
Mm.
um, anyway. Um, and some of them were MI consistent. There was also a point in there where I did something that wasn't MI consistent, and I pointed it out. I asked two questions at once, and I said, "I'm only going to ask one." And my voice actually changed because I realized I was speaking to the people who are listening,
Mm.
not to the little girl. Because that's a key point with an MI is like just ask one thing, keep everything short and concise. But I think it'd be interesting. You're the expert here, Claire. You work in this field. You work with, you know, these situations. How was that for you? What did you notice?
It's really it's it's interesting when you put yourself in their shoes, and that would be very common, kind of the level of stuckness. And no two children are alike. And I suppose that what I was doing there was very chatty, in comparison to a lot of just for where the kids are, it'd be difficult for them to engage verbally. Um, but as always, when you're doing a role play, it's hard to take yourself out of it completely. And I never shut up, so I suppose there was always going to be that it was going to be that child more than anything else. What I felt was you very much matched the pace and the tone, and that was lovely. That calms you down. You as the conversation went on, I felt that we genuinely connected. I felt that you understood, and I felt that you weren't pushing me to a place that I wasn't ready to go, and that you were trying to understand, and that made me want to, I suppose, look at, well, what is it a bit more, because I think with anxiety, when there's no particular obvious trigger, this wasn't a child who had been bullied, or wasn't a child with where the learning in and of itself was especially difficult. Um, there was no one thing, there was no family crisis or anything like that. It can be really, really difficult, and sometimes for them to understand why this is happening to them as well. So it was genuinely created a lovely space, a safe space where I could think about it with you alongside me, and that was calming, actually, because I felt as though I could tell you a little bit more as the ideas occurred. And also, as you moved into the affirmations, were lovely. They felt like, you know, you were relieving pressure, that it was okay, and you were normalizing it's okay to feel like this. And when it moved into, I suppose, hitting on the things that I enjoyed, that was lovely as well, because it brought me into a different space. Again, a bit of relief from the pressure and the blame, I think, that I was feeling. So I think it was productive, and I think by the end, I felt hope. That I thought that was successful with the idea of a character. It took me outside myself, and I realized when you did that, I didn't want it to end this way. That and in that, I suppose, just it wasn't logical. I hadn't thought through how I was going to get out of it. But even though I couldn't see a way out, I didn't want this to be the end of my story. So that was very helpful. And again, I felt a connection with you that I wanted to. It was, sort of as if in that character, all these people coming out to the house and had left again, but I wanted to talk to you again. And that's then why I asked that.
Okay. So from a perspective of, if I kind of go through it, I struggled to think of how I start a conversation with a 13-year-old kid who I know nothing about. How do I connect with a young one? Now, obviously, if I knew about the parent or a bit about the background of the child, you did put together a case briefing here, but I haven't read it just to see what could be done off the back foot. How do you connect? And the first thing that struck me is you're obviously not responding. And that's why I went in with, it's difficult. You're up there in your room, and I'm acknowledging, first of all, it took so long to come down because you didn't want to be there. So I acknowledge that you don't want to be there and let you know that that's perfectly okay to not want to be there. And be curious about why you don't want to be there, because that's my opener, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to, first of all, what is the emotional state that they're in? What is the emotional state about? Can I understand that? Get to the bottom of it. From an MI perspective, that's where your open questions allow you to get in, because you don't, if I went, do you not like school? Is school bad, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Do you not like the teachers? No. Do you not like the people there? No. You're in the wrong school, aren't you? It's just, you've closed everything down.
Yeah.
So if we go in with, here, let's connect. Where are you right now? You're in a shit place. Let's get in on that. Let's sit in that shit together, basically, and go like, yeah, thanks for coming down. This is difficult. You don't want to have this conversation with me. Here's the way to start a conversation with somebody, and then for them to go, yeah, I don't want to have this conversation with you. That's okay. Well, I know you don't want to have it. Thanks for coming down anyway. I appreciate that. Like, there's no animosity there. If they're pushing back, as a child would do, maybe if they want to be resistant, which is not a great word to use, we would maybe, find ourselves going against them. But as soon as you don't push back, then they're coming towards you. Because you're going, oh, this is how you feel, let's go this way. Because it's this whole thing of, if you push them, they push back. But if you're not pushing, you're going where they want. And if they, oh, I don't want to go there, I want to go there, they're just expand into that space.
Yeah.
And again, that's consistent with MI in this understanding of the term psychological reactance, where if you're told to do something, then the only way you can have freedom is by doing the opposite. And that's why everyone goes into a curry house and is told, don't touch that out, this is hot. Oh, I'll see myself. And then, oh yeah, it's hot.
Yep.
Because nobody likes being told what to do. I'd probably say nobody from Northern Ireland especially likes being told what to do, but ever. I think it's come over to England here, and it's just, yeah, everyone's telling you what to do, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll rephrase it. The person who taught me motivational interviewing is also from Northern Ireland, and he was told that the questions and the way that he interacted on a student group um, wasn't very good, and they just chalked it up to being Irish because, and he's from the other side of Northern Ireland that I'm from. They don't care, and it's just a case of you're obstreperous and won't be told what to do,
Yeah.
and you will question everything. And
Mhm.
I find that interesting. So children, again, they're coming to the stage of looking freedom, and they've been
Mhm.
told what to do. I'm curious from your perspective, um, age appropriateness, stages of development in the child, things like that. There's stuff there that I don't know about. It's not my specialism. What could I have taken into consideration? Could you critique what I did and go like, Hugh, there's some bad bits in there?
I think again, like it's that sort of, how long is a piece of string? Like obviously there'd be, different stages and you're going to tailor it, and it's hard because I think maybe at times maybe was I too childlike for a 13-year-old? Was I too verbose for a 13-year-old? At times, so it's difficult to sort of get past my own critique. I think where you met me was perfect because again, what I think was good. You kept the questions were short, so there was plenty of space for me to talk. You weren't saying too much, and I think for kind of 13-year-old girl who's highly anxious, the amount that they're able to take in, especially unfamiliar setting and all of the rest of it, I think that was very appropriate. The summaries then were for me very helpful to hear that gathered up and reflected back. Depending, I suppose, on the state, I think it was age appropriate and fine. It would have probably just depended on the emotional state of how much of that she would have been able to have picked up. But again, in terms of like the 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 level that you were pitching it at, it seemed good. There was complex reflections in there again, which I think they're well able for that child, um, whose verbal ability was like certainly well enough developed to be able to understand that. I don't think there would have been a difficulty with that. Um, if a child is younger, we'll strip that right back and make it make it much simpler and shorter and all of the rest of it. That's not who we were working with here.
So for those people listening to this debrief, let's break down complex reflections. A complex reflection is not a simple reflection. A simple reflection is where you repeat, where you rephrase or continue the paragraph of what's been said. So you'll have heard me say, it's difficult, it's hard, you don't like it. Those are all simple reflections. I'm just saying back in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Complex reflections is when you put things out that challenge their understanding a bit. And I did a number of those during the thing. It's not called a thing, it's called an interview. But
The technical term.
technical term, the technical thing interview. Did you notice was there any complex reflections in when we do them in real life, they tend to come in, they challenge us a bit and make us go, I never thought of it like that. That's interesting because it's not wrong, but it didn't think like that. That's the kind
Mm-hmm.
of response.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think in psychology terms, we change our mind. So, for example, if you're ditching your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, you go from, oh, I love you, oh, I hate you. And that process in between is called cognitive dissonance, where you change your mind. And
Mm-hmm.
it's painful because you go, I was wrong.
Yeah.
That's so this whole complex reflection is like a soft way of going, he's not telling lies, but and I agree with it, but I don't, so it's forcing a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
reconsideration. was there any points in that where you felt yourself going like, I've been challenged?
Yeah, like I think early on, Hugh, you talk, you're never going back. It was that sort of like, that's what I'm saying, and to hear that back, you're just testing the strength of that resolve, and when you hear that, I suppose, absolute reflected back to you, it does it makes you think. And even though it was early on, so and I was dead set, you know, I am out of school here. I'm not ready to go back,
Mhm.
and I knew that. But even just hearing it it's effective because it makes you think. You challenged me several points of, so you want to go back, you don't want to go back, and you had that ambivalence just handing that back to me. And again, it was funny because you had picked up on the little things, even though they were very, very tiny, but there were things in there that had gone better in the past, and that if I could have more of those, yes, it would be more tolerable. So again, that was good. I didn't want to hear it, I suppose, in the state that I was in, but it definitely plants a seed. You poked some holes in. There was another one. You talked kind of a lot of the extremes as well. What's the worst that's happened. Again, I couldn't give a specific example, but it takes you out of your stuckness to go looking for it. There was something else towards the end where you introduced like it wasn't black or white, and our character here was quite a black and white thinker, quite rigid in some respects. Can't remember what it was. I'll have to listen back. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it might have been when I said, but you don't want to go back to school uh, at the moment. And then I paused and said, other than for art and reading.
Yes, yes. And that again, that landed. And I would think, you're imagining a world where, well, if it was just those things, if that was the only demand, you move into a place of, well, I could cope a wee bit better with that.
Yeah, okay.
That's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah. So for people who are listening, let's go into that a little bit further. These complex reflections challenge the way they think. Whenever people talk, they're essentially making sense of what's going on in the 70,000 thoughts they have a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they speak, they have to put it into something coherent.
Mm-hmm.
It's often doesn't make sense or doesn't stack up. And when they hear that back, they go, it goes back in the ear, goes back in the head, and they go, that's not too coherent. And then they come back out again with something else.
Yeah.
If they hear it back again.
Mm-hmm.
And often people think they're actively listening. When, what are you saying? Oh yeah, you say that right? Okay. That's not active listening. Active listening is going, you said this to me.
Mm-hmm.
That what you said? And then they go, no, that doesn't make sense. I mean more like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God forbid anybody has to like think first thing in the morning or any time of day when they're hungry, tired, sad, emotional, and
Mm-hmm.
speak sense. You don't get sense out at all first time. So this is why the reflections process is important.
Mm-hmm.
So these complex reflections, there's different types. Some that we've seen today are siding with the negative.
Yeah.
People will feel scared about going. You don't want to go back ever. People will say, "Oh, you can't say that. That's the thing we don't want."
Yeah.
And we did. How do you feel about that, Claire? I mean, you've picking up
It's
MI now for a while, and this siding with a negative business. Like, what's your thoughts on it?
yeah. Like it's fascinating because as a practitioner, I will avoid it like the plague. You're right. I'm frightened of it. It's a risk too far. Sometimes with these cases, you're frightened to say anything that could be maybe upset the already stress systems around the child. Did you say that to my child? And you're thinking, oh gosh, that's not my intention. I get, I can't describe this as a technical skill in this particular framework. That's just not going to fly. So I'll avoid that. But actually, what's quite interesting is sitting in this seat, I felt understood when you said that, and that was the power in it. So that's been very interesting to experience from this side, and again through the training in MI when I've sat in groups with people and had the experience where they're siding with the negative. Actually, it is a brilliant way of testing, the resolve. If you're sort of getting into I'm never doing this again and hearing that back, it makes you check yourself. So from this seat, it doesn't feel risky. It's somebody just checking in. From a practitioner seat, it can feel like a very, very risky thing to do.
Mhm. It's interesting how people are scared of this, because
Mm,
when you think about it, if they agree with you, then all you have is a full understanding of their truth.
yeah.
And my goodness, is that not being understood? You know,
Hmm.
um, and the reality is, in worse circumstances, if you're dealing with suicidality or something like that,
Hmm.
and you talk about suicide, it doesn't make it worse. It doesn't increase their chances of committing suicide by talking to somebody about it. And this is going to school. This is not that. So all we're doing is actually fully understanding the strength of how they feel about the situation and where they're at. They might change about it, they might get worse, they might get better, but we're fully understanding where they're at. And if we go right up I'm at the negative of you're never going back and no money,
Hmm.
nobody's under, not by gunpoint, not by anybody else at gunpoint, no money,
Yeah.
whatever, you're not going. Well, great, we understand exactly where they're at, and then we start from that point right beside them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, it doesn't mean when you say something, it doesn't mean you're agreeing with them.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what a reflection is. Just because I put this back to them, I'm not agreeing with them. I'm just understanding them.
Yeah.
You know? So I think it's a powerful thing, but I understand why people might be feeling nervous about that.
Hmm.
Would you much rather have somebody bring up a topic and understand somebody fully, especially in more difficult circumstances,
Yeah.
because it saves lives?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
you
I
know,
think when you said that towards the end there, stuck in the room for 5 years and not doing anything again, it lands. It's powerful when you hear that back and you actually imagine that future, because I think in this seat you're maybe thinking how to escape
mm,
now and how to just, once you get that relief, how to lock that down for the
mm,
foreseeable, but you're not thinking very far in the future. And actually being confronted with that is helpful because you realize it, or certainly in that, and I know it was a role play, but you're
mm,
confronted with a future where you think, actually, for an instant, I want more for myself. And that's the power in it too.
mm. So within that, I was specifically mindful of the fact of, whatever a person is doing, they can do it for 2 weeks, they can do it for 2 years or 200 years, but it can also change.
Hmm.
So within MI, we talk about like what are the two possible futures. You do this one or do that one, and we can just explore them.
Hmm.
Make it feel safe by hypothetically exploring it, which is why I got in these silly things about, oh, you're like books and stories. I use that to allow me
Yep.
to access this idea of hypothetical change.
Yeah.
Um, and I wouldn't, I mean, I'm aware that anybody listening to this might go, oh, he's very good with, this butterfly thing came out and this
Mm,
story,
yeah.
all this art stuff came in. That's maybe a bit more so me than it is MI. Um, you know, but I'm using what I've got in front of me
Yeah.
is the thing,
Hmm.
thinking about it in those terms. So, where am I going with this? I'm going to say that the stuck in the place for 5 years is a complex reflection because
Hmm.
it reframed this solution of I want to stay at home into a problem for the future.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, I enjoy smoking and going out in a smoke break and get 5 minutes break from a boss. And God Almighty, and it's good to catch up and hear about whatever from so and so. But yeah, that's great. It's a good thing to get those smoke breaks, but you don't want the consequences in 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's that. Can you
Yeah.
can you bring the attention to that bit? So you don't mind smoking now, but but you don't want the consequences of that. So you might change in the future, and then you go, but you're not changing today, but you want to change before you're 70. Oh yeah, definitely. Would you want to change before you're 60? Yeah, yeah. Before you're 50? Yeah. Before you're 40? Yeah. What age are you now? 52. All right. You know, so you're going far,
Yeah.
going short, and then slowly collide them together.
Yeah.
That brings up the idea of this other complex reflection, which is, I've forgotten the name of it now. I always do this. What's it called again, Claire? To
Can't practice.
What is it?
Oh, ambivalence.
Oh, when you go some of this, some of that.
Some
Bit of,
on the
bit
one
of,
hand on the other.
yeah, that name for it.
Double-sided.
Double-sided. That's right.
Both
Hang on.
opposite each other.
It's not even a complex name, right? It's a simple name. Um, Double-sided. So you go, here's all the benefit, here's all the problem.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You don't even turn it into a question. You just go,
Yes.
with all this benefit, you've got all this problem. And you say nothing and see
Yeah.
what they like from that. Because then they'll start going, there's this and this, and they smash together,
Yeah.
and the ambivalence is tackled then. So let's use the word ambivalence. I'm a psychologist. I didn't know what that meant when I first heard it. I thought, this is probably racist, but we're hopefully among friends. I thought it was like Welsh for ambulance. But what it means is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Or stuck between a hard place. No, that's a rock and a hard place. Stuck between a good place and a good place, beer and ice cream. Which do you want? That's ambivalence. And then there's also behavior change of, oh, I want to do more exercise. That's like current status of comfort, but long-term gain. So it's like short-term gain, long-term pain. There's ambivalence between
Yeah.
those things. So ambivalence is just how we feel psychologically, and you actually have to go through it. That people, if there's no ambivalence, there's no problem.
Yeah.
Ambivalence is part of change, understanding that. So people are concerned about it, but they shouldn't be, because it's just a normal part of it, of thinking through how we make changes. It should be there. We should go through it and consider why we might change something.
Yeah.
Was there any other complex reflections we noticed during that?
There were a lot. I would need to go through it again. Those are the ones that stuck out to me, kind of when you very much handing back, reminding me all the time there were these things that sources of joy and things that helped you linked it to the feeling was quite good. That was maybe something that had come out of the conversation that made her feel free, or just took the pressure off, maybe helped going to sleep. So again, it was taking it down to another level, past this sort of stuck in I can't cope and I'm too anxious all the time, into you can also feel other ways about other things, and that you linked it to coping as well. So that was quite, I think powerful. And again, I imagine, I can't, not in those shoes, but for a lot of the young people that we work with, where they are met with many people who are coming in with really, really good intentions, who are, maybe time poor. Maybe somebody's a case officer has an hour to spend with a child, and it might be quite focused. They might feel as though, like, their agenda is, I have to get to this place in a short amount of time. So maybe moving to fixing, and it's just maybe not the right there's not enough time to engage and explore with that young person what's actually maybe going on for them. So I think those skills and taking it into the deeper level is very useful for this, for just self-understanding and self-reflection. So
You made a great point there. Sorry to use again a very serious example, but I've had a situation with a person ringing me before a suicide attempt, and by the end of the call, I left hanging up the call happy because I'd done the right thing, and it wasn't the first one. It was the first time I've ever, heard the person hung up with me. I thought, if this happens and it goes wrong, I'm all right. I've done my best, and I've done the right things, and I've said the right things,
mhm,
and that's a really interesting place to be, given that those have occurred, and
mhm,
it's caused me massive amounts of stress before. Um, and the reason being is because I can only control what I can do. I can't control what they can do. And
mhm,
sometimes, as psychologists, as teachers, as whatever, we think we're going to be the magic thing that makes the difference.
mhm,
But actually, it's more along the lines of we're the magic thing when we hear the difference, when we
mhm,
actually listen out and actually hear what they're saying and understand them and empathize with them. And that's the big, like the underlying thing here is compassion, partnership, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. So I accepted them where they were at.
mhm,
I showed compassion. I was willing to suffer with them and listen to them. And this, I suppose, what's the word? Idea that I have to get through my hour and fill in my notes and my little form and be accountable to whoever. None of that is change in the person. That's us going bureaucratic nonsense.
mhm,
And actually, if you'd filled in nothing, if you took no notes and just sat there and tried to listen,
mhm,
oh, I want to empathize with this person and I want to understand them as fully as I can with none of my judgment in it and none of my telling them what to do in it,
mhm,
then they might be closer to changing. But if you fill in your forms out or getting through something or asking these 10 vital questions or whatever
mhm.
isn't going to make a difference.
Yeah,
It's actually just about connection.
yeah, and I agree with that. I know that that can be very difficult for people in the kind of the immediate team around that child or young person, where and plenty of people will say, well, that's all very well, but what are you going to do about it? And you know, this isn't fixing anything.
Mhm.
And I'd be interested in your thoughts around around that, because it's generally by the time a child or young person is referred into us, it will be because they could have been encouraged by health agencies to, the problems with school, get them a classroom assistant, and it's very difficult. A child is not in school at all, and yet the answer is to provide something in school that's not necessarily meeting the need with that child because the exploration work maybe hasn't been done. It's maybe what other people might assume is the answer. It could be that, it could be something else, but it very often these conversations with the adults around the child are very genuine, stressed people who genuinely want to help. As yes, but what are we going to do to fix this?
Mhm.
And
Yeah. So that's interesting. There's all these things that, what are we going to do to fix this? And every single little bit of that is taking the empowerment off the child.
mhm,
It's taking the autonomy off the child's ability to decide, control, and change and learn.
mhm,
It's taking all that responsibility off them. And therefore, if you take all the responsibility off them and they change, they can't even be successful in their change because you did it, not them. You know. So you haven't made them better. You've just put a bubble around them and bubbled them up and sent them on down the line.
mhm,
Um, the the last element of the spirit of MI is empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to do that during that call by, first of all, understanding what it is that you enjoyed or got out of, life, what was meaningful. When you said about your granny,
Mm-hmm.
a notepad,
Yeah.
or a drawing thing, technology stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the reading, all of these little things where these are things I do and it sort of sets me free and gives me that. That was me highlighting coping strategies.
Yeah.
Thanks for making it easier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and on those shiny little bits, there's like little stars poking through the dark night sky. I
Yeah.
just get back, going polishing those and going like, right, a bit of
Mm-hmm.
focus on that, bit of focus on that, bit of exploration around that.
Mm-hmm.
What else makes you feel like that? How does it make you
Yeah.
feel? What else makes you feel like that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was just, I don't know what's going to come out of it. Nothing might come out of it. And that's perfectly fine if nothing comes out of it. At least we went there and saw it, and then we can go back and try it.
Yeah.
Um, I, I think when we change the environment to suit people, we can help them make change. And we've actually got our suggestions of what our parents could do better,
Mm-hmm.
what the teachers could do.
Mm-hmm.
Not even better. Actually, all we're trying to do there was I'm trying to get information out that is
Mm-hmm.
vital, that can impact the child.
Yeah.
I want to go, look, hey, parents, you guys are doing a great job when you do this. Teachers, you guys are doing a great job when you do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I don't want to tell other people what to do because they'll resist against it.
Yeah.
No, but if I can get something that is meaningful to them, and
Mm-hmm.
if they can become aware of that occurring, then they're going to start thinking, wait a minute, I've changed my environment because my parents now do this and they've heard me. The teachers now do this and they've heard me. And they're going, oh, these people are connecting into me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something very powerful in that. And again, from this chair, experiencing, hearing from somebody else back again what I've offered, and you were consistently linking it to coping, which again might not have occurred to that young person as something that they do to cope. It is genuinely empowering, and you're leaving that conversation having a stronger link to this thing as something that is helpful. And I think for some of the places where some of our young people are, and they're feeling very, very hopeless and very, very stuck. So to have that, I mean, that's better than it was before at the start of the conversation. It's not nothing. I think it's very scary for the adults when you have a child who is refusing to go back, and people feel like they don't know what to do. And sometimes, you know, what seems like a little step can be very, very powerful for that young person. So I think it's valuable. I think it's helpful. I think it's genuinely helpful.
So, was there anything else from an MI perspective that you picked up on? Any other thoughts on partnership, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment, or cores, open questions, affirmations, reflection, summaries? Definitely going to come on to affirmations, have a good exploration there. There's
Mm-hmm.
also the stages of the conversation of engage, focus, evoke, plan.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the three main areas of MI. Was there anything else that stood out to you, Claire, of interest?
I think the pace, the intent of the conversation is the thing that creates the space where it's safe to say this stuff out loud, and I accept fully that will be more difficult for some young people than it will be for others. But that partnership, acceptance, collaboration, and empowerment is how it's kind of the best chance we can get to create the opportunity for this conversation. So it's safe and it's open and it's non-judgmental. It's exactly what it says in the tin. And I think that you spent a long time engaging with me and pacing that, just matching where I was at. And because of that, and because I felt understood, and it was still, I mean, the complex reflections, the challenges were still there from very early on in the conversation, but you didn't rush it, you didn't force it. I felt like you have all day. And that was lovely because, again, a lot of our kids, you know, they're not they're not ready. You can't rush this. You can't. Um, so because I think of the time you spent with that, then when you moved in kind of at the end, just towards the end there, and what would the teachers be doing and what would your parents be doing? Those questions fell quite naturally then off the back of a very thorough explanation. So in that were the gems for potential planning and potential, concrete steps forward. But often in our conversations, the balance of that can be the opposite. We spend very little time exploring and a lot of time trying to force the planning. And it was the opposite. So that, I think, was very, very helpful. And also asking at the end, Claire, what were your takeaways? What were the things that you found helpful? Is lovely because those are the things then that I get to choose and I get to remember. And you also kind of reinforce that at the end there. This is up to you. And
that's empowering.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting, we think, oh, I've got my stuff to get through whenever I work with this child. But that's nowhere near as powerful or important or impactful as what did you make of this conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the actual impact bit, is what they're taking away. If they go, oh, some of your jokes were all right, that's about it, then I go, I need to work on my jokes, but also all the rest of the stuff, if somebody gives you the feedback, they take nothing from it, great. That's your starting point. That's where the next conversation starts off. It's nothing to be scared or concerned about that they got nothing from it. That's honestly where they're at. And then all that tells you is you're able to have a conversation where somebody can honestly tell you what they think of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my goodness, how often do we just hold our tongue because we're fed up with people, So,
Yep.
we don't have honest conversations a lot of the time. So to get honest feedback that it's bad conversation is a good end to a bad conversation. It's a great end, great start. So that question, I'll use that all the time after every session. What's been useful? The other thing is, I think in my head, oh, this was useful. Oh, look at the skill. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at this wee metaphor about lovely butterflies. And I think all these important things and self-aggrandize of how good I am at what I did. But none of what I think ever tends to be the bits that they take away, because they're a different person with a different understanding of the world.
Yeah.
And that research continually shows that psychologists think that the people take away this, but the people take away something else.
Yeah.
So checking out what that is realigns you. It connects you into where exactly they're at and what's useful. The other thing, I don't know if you noticed it, I used a technique called POT, which is very useful for challenging. I used it twice. Did you notice it at any point?
Now you're asking. I can't bring it to mind. You must have done it. You must have done it very skillfully, because normally I pick up on it. What did you do?
Right. So for people who are listening to this, POT is when you, in MI terms, it used to be called elicit, ask, elicit. No, it didn't. Elicit, provide, elicit. And then they changed it to ask, offer, ask. And all it simply is I put it in a different way. I think of it as POT, pot, permission, opinions, thoughts. Get permission, give your opinion that might be a challenge or a different viewpoint to them or some information, and then ask them what their thoughts are on it. I might go, Claire, I don't like how you did your acting today. That's just an opinion, right? I'm throwing it out there. You're not going to receive that well. But if I said, Claire, do you mind if I share or I ask a silly question?
Ah, yes.
Yeah. right? There's two reasons I use that. Do you mind if I ask a silly question? Well, I'm
Mhm.
dealing with a child, right? I don't want to be an authority. I want them to know I think I'm silly.
Mhm.
I don't mind being silly and wrong and getting things wrong because they're probably under some degree of pressure. And she obviously was about how this is impacting the parents and stuff. So I'm going to say, look, can I ask a silly question? Because if it turns around, like, why would you ask that? That's nonsense. That's okay, because I've already, stuck the pin in it and said this isn't a great question, but I just want to see.
Mhm.
And then I said, when if I ask a silly question, it was offered something, a bit of a challenge. And then, what are your thoughts on that? I think it was at the very end of if you did go back,
Yes.
I'd be different.
Yeah.
And again, because I didn't mind if that gets shot, there's no way in hell I'm going back.
Yeah.
Alright, it was a silly question, just
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Just checking.
Well, but because I'm not saying, what if you did go back? That would have been like straight up against it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And it would have damaged, I think it would have damaged or certainly risked the connection at that point. Because I would, I thought this guy got me. I thought he understood. And now he's moving into what if you did? I've told him I'm not going back.
So I devalued the question by calling it silly. Um, but also I got permission to ask, which is the main bit, asking a
Yeah.
question. Because if you had said, no, I don't want any questions, well, it doesn't matter what question I ask, it's not going to be helpful to the conversation.
Yeah.
And then more importantly, I place the value on what are the opinions that you have of this question or this information or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And for anybody listening, the way to remember that is if you've got a spiky opinion that's not going to be well received, you have to put it in a pot.
Yeah.
Missions, opinions, thoughts,
Mhm.
because you wouldn't hand somebody a raw cactus. You this way put it in a pot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so, what else do we need to cover to make this of benefit?
You'd mentioned affirmations.
Mhm. So, affirmations are the gold dust of motivational interviewing, and they are whenever you reflect back something that is beneficial to the person's endeavors or direction and highlights to them a skill, a value, a behavior, um, and the impact of an affirmation is it helps build confidence, which is the most valuable thing we can have. If Claire was confident about going to school,
Mhm.
no issue. You know, um, and in fact, we think about affirmations as they can be quite simple
Mhm.
or you're good. Well, actually, that's not an affirmation, is it? That's actually that's praise.
Good phrase.
Yeah. So that's my judgment. I think you're good.
Yeah.
Affirmation is a factual thing. It's not a judgmental thing. So it's you've tried hard to go back to school. And in the struggle, if somebody's struggling, they're struggling against something, they're trying, they've got an intent, you can see the value in them,
Mhm.
trying hard. And therefore, there must be a reason in there as well for the change. Why are you trying?
Yeah.
So that's where I got my sort of hooks in a bit, where I
Mhm.
thought, right, they they've tried to go back,
Mhm.
I affirm that. And then
Mhm.
but later on, I didn't jump in straight away. Why are we trying to go back?
Yeah.
I seen that at the very start. I waited till like halfway through or three quarters of the way through. Well, you were trying hard to go back. Why was this so important? And then we got into art. What did you like?
Yeah.
So when you see somebody suffering, it's because they're
Mhm.
struggling in a direction. And then you can point out they're struggling for something and you can affirm that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, what were, was there any affirmations that particularly landed with you?
Yeah, I think that, right from the get-go, and I think it was a really well placed right from the get-go. You have been trying it's so hard because I think we often hear it from the opposite end, where it's like a child that has transferred into post primary, you know, and they started off going in year 8, and it's just been this steady decline and steady fall off. And yes, it looks like that on the referral page, but actually it's a clever flip. And because for the child, and that's the narrative that the child will have heard consistently, for the 3 years in this case. But actually what you had done was affirm that she has been trying and trying and trying and trying and trying, and is running out of steam, bless her. That has been so difficult, and yet you're pulling out that she's persisted in spite of this. And I think that's important to have that affirmed from the beginning, because you just got somebody that noticed that you tried.
Yeah. And did you notice the affirmation about you care about your parents?
Yes. And that's lovely too, because we would see that certainly, like in this case, but we would see that a lot, where the kids are well aware and the parents are stressed. Maybe if outside agencies are involved, and there's maybe court letters have been sent out, and very often the young people are aware of this, and they are taking that on themselves. And for them, it's like, I don't want this for anybody, but they really believe that they can't. They're that stuck. So I think, again, having that acknowledged, that you're not this, like, just a bad news for everybody in the family. You're causing problems left, right, and centre. So you're not. Again, you have that validated and affirmed that you care very much about the people. You don't want this for anybody, and it takes some of that blaming maybe away.
Yeah. And I suppose we think about, like, again, stages of development. Children grow up and they start to become aware of themselves. I'm not fully aware of these stages, but loosely I know it's like they become aware of themselves, then they become aware of their parents, and then during puberty they start moving towards a social peer group, and then towards like late teens, early 20s, they start orientating towards their own sort of ideals and views. So you've got this person who's 13, potentially going from my parents are really important to me to the conflict stage of puberty, and wanting friends, and then this court stuff, and there's a lot of, it's a hot melting pot of difficulty there, because I bet you those rows where well, I know they're pretty real whenever I was young with my parents, so I think from that perspective, like, trying to connect them with the parents is the parents care about you.
Yeah.
You care about your parents.
Yeah.
There's a common ground there. And again, these affirmations, the affirmation is obviously they care about the parents. I was challenged really hardly. I can't even speak. I was challenged really hard because I was getting a bit like, my God, if I'm talking to this person and I'm saying, your parents aren't going to go to court. Well, maybe they are. Maybe they are going to end up in jail or whatever. So I felt as if I can't promise something here. So you really had me up against the wall at that point.
Yeah.
If you're watching this back, I'm sure you maybe pick up that you might not pick up what I was flustering, because I probably did a couple of things. I stayed silent and thought about it. And that's a good way of slowing the conversation down.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to try and acknowledge somebody's concerns. So I didn't want to acknowledge them and make it worse.
Yeah.
Because the amount of blame and guilt that they were putting on themselves. Now, I don't know what the rules are, but it sounds to me in this day and age, if somebody's engaging with services and doing their best for their child, that there shouldn't be any court issues. It's different if they're not engaging with services. But I can't imagine that must be a difficult situation for you to manage. How do you work like that?
It is difficult, Hugh. And again, that's, for me, I suppose it's one of the ways that I'm finding MI so useful in my own work, because it helps me navigate that. Like, the techniques that you mentioned, concrete things that we can do to certainly not we're not telling any lies. We're acknowledging that this is really difficult. And we're not trite either, so I'm sure that must be awful. It's not flippant. It's genuine. That's what we're bringing into this. So I find both the technical and the relationship, those skills together for me are a good fit, because they help me manage when difficult things come up and they're a genuine worry. It gives me a way of negotiating that's respectful and still honest. And certainly before I came across this, I probably would have I would have panicked a wee bit more, and maybe a bit flustered, probably just skied over it, tried to change the subject. But I wouldn't have known what to do. And quite often, I think in those conversations as well, it is easy to get pulled into the sense of hopelessness and the blame. You can nearly jump down that rabbit hole with them, or especially actually with the adults sometimes in the situation. So again, this gives me a way of, as you say, like maybe we're just silent and maybe we're sitting with that. And that's, I think I've heard you say this before, that's when the thinking is happening for that person, or you can reflect it back and hand that to them and see what they do with it, which again I believe is genuinely helpful for them, because we can't affect what's going on with the other agencies. We can't. It's beyond what we're there to do.
Yeah. That wasn't the only time I struggled in that conversation.
Really?
Yeah. There's a couple of instances where I felt like I found it very difficult because we weren't getting anywhere towards what they wanted. I mean, we got a little bit of what they wanted, and that's the other thing I did. I reflected back the change talk, which was, what you like. I like art. I want to do stuff when we're older.
Yeah.
And anytime that there was reasons, desire, ability, reasons, need, any of those words were used or anything like them, I reflected it back, because that was the bits that made the change come out. Okay, we can actually talk about the problem that we don't want to talk about. So yeah, there was a lot of, it was quite difficult. I found it hard.
Well, it was I found it hard as well, because I mean, me, in the sense it's like to be stuck like that. It's for a people pleaser.
Yes.
You want to give something, and yet that would be not uncommon, sadly, at all. And sometimes kids can be, like, that would be considered really constructive. I mean, some children, they may not come down to meet you at all. They may not be ready to engage at all, or maybe very, very, very few words, just the odd monosyllabic response or a grunt if had children growling, crawling on all floors, on all floors around the room, really, really struggling with any kind of communication. They're just not in a place where they can engage. So I think it was, for me, I mean, I hope people will find it useful. I hope it strikes that, it will be familiar territory in some aspects for them, because obviously for the purposes of this training, we want to be able to illustrate how the skills come into practice. So the child has to be giving something in order to see that in action. And at the same time, I accept there are cases where you have even less to work with. And of course, we know that, I mean, MI isn't for everything. It's also not a magic fix. We know that. But again, it's something that I feel is a really, really good shot at trying to understand where a stuck young person is at.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of power in connecting with people genuinely and authentically. And that's what happens when you've got good friends. That's what happens when you've got a good psychologist, or you've got somebody who can have a good conversation. And MI is a framework for training yourself to become good at connecting with people genuinely and authentically. Um, and often recognizing all the things that we do wrong in conversations, like I did when I asked 2 questions at once there. I was like, that's something I do. And MI has trained me to know that at least I do it and I can stop myself in my tracks and go, what are you doing, Hugh? But the other thing is I'm thinking here about the partnership, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. Teachers are overworked and they are stressed and they've got expectations on them. But they're working with kids and they're trying to form a partnership. Same way the educational psychs are trying to form a partnership with the kids, teachers, and parents. And how teachers feel, how educational psychs feel, is irrelevant to how the people they work with feel, unfortunately. And you actually have to turn off how you feel. And look, I had a person who was a guardian of a vulnerable adult. I had to tell them that they had expressed about suicidal ideation, and the person, the guardian said, who was also a blood relative, said, "We don't want to get a clinical psych in because it's too close to the Paralympic Games." And at that point, I had to bite my tongue because all I felt was pure and utter violence in his direction. That this was a response to somebody who was expressing that. And that's my judgment. That's what I feel about the situation. Some of you might think that is right. But it wouldn't have helped anything. The only thing I could do is actually try and understand why he thinks like that and try and, work with him where he's at. So we have to actually sacrifice our judgment of the situation and what we think is right and what actually sometimes is very right and try to connect with what's there. So that's the acceptance bit, is accepting their version of reality. The compassion bit is understanding their emotions in the situation. And that's why when you start using language like scared, worried, guilty, I also put the word embarrassed on you when you threw up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to use emotional words. Maybe you don't know what the emotions mean, but if I have a good understanding of what emotions actually are, what an emotion is, then we can start to connect and share that compassion verbally. But then the last bit, the empowerment, is what makes a difference to you, the art bit, what can we get out? These are all the skills that we use in MI, the O's, the stages of the conversation, the engage, focus, evoke, plan. All of that just displays the spirit, the pace, the partnership, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. When you talk about nonverbal, we've had a little bit of discussion about this. And I think it would require some creative, but not impossible ways of how do you show partnership, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment to somebody who's nonverbal and growling on the floor. Like, is that a case of you treat it as it's not a problem? But they're on the floor and they're, because I imagine you might get that and go, like, oh, what do I do here? Not one of these ones. What's my judgment of the situation as opposed to, right, we're on the floor today. I'm getting down all fours, and if we're going to be dogs, let's piss in the same tree. Like, I don't know what you do. Like, I don't know how far you go. do you know?
Not that far.
Not that far. But it is the case of, like, can we take that spirit and apply it physically and apply it in our body language and apply it in how we deal with them in the room? Have you any thoughts on that? We've briefly talked about this, but it's not something I've fully thought of before.
Yeah, and again, I don't know, Hugh, from an organizational perspective. I would imagine my service would have a view, and it's I I don't know how much I could say here. I don't know. I think that there is something I agree. There's something very powerful in meeting people where they're at, and when people, children that are maybe growling at you, they're not using words, but they are communicating.
Mm.
And I think that, they still have, we're there with them, and we can, and maybe it's a case of whatever is right for that practitioner, where we try and communicate that we have heard you, we have heard what you are trying to let us know. Um, I have colleagues and myself as well would have no bother, many, you've been down on the floor, that's fine. Um, and I have other colleagues maybe would be less comfortable with that. Um, and I imagine parents would have a view of
Mhm.
what may or may not be helpful as well. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I know in the moment with a child, I very much go with the flow, and I will try different things. I will try and read to the point where if I'm getting back off messages, I'll show them that I've heard that and I'll back off.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying very hard not to say what about the ground in particular.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, look, some of the thoughts that are coming through to my head there are, if a child is, fortunately, I have a child and he growls at me. I have two actually. They both growl at me. But yeah, if someone is growling, it's either a case of they're being aggressive or, well, how I think about this in my head and my training is what emotions are present. There's probably anger. Uh,
Mhm,
Anger comes from a belief that something is unfair. There's probably also, at the same time, anxiety,
mhm,
which means we're under threat. So if I go, right, this child's on the ground growling at me, pretending to be like a dog or an animal or whatever, what would I do with a dog or animal that felt under threat and felt angry?
mhm,
Probably give it some space.
mhm,
I'd probably show that I mean no threat. I'd
mhm,
probably actually move back a bit, maybe get lower than it, maybe offer um, something to it that it wants,
mhm,
and then just give it time.
mhm.
I mean, that's what I would do with a, if I was in a situation with a dog or something like that that I didn't trust and had no way of getting out of the room, you
Yeah,
know, that
yeah.
would make, that
Have
would
no
make,
regret.
yeah. Um, but again, the other emotions that have come up today are shame. Shame comes up whenever we feel
Mhm,
that other people will judge us. Guilt comes up when we feel that we've done wrong.
mhm.
So those are the beliefs. So it was interesting. The embarrassment one is, I'm ashamed because I've thrown up here.
Yeah,
I feel guilty because I put my parents through this.
yeah.
I feel scared because I'm overwhelmed and under threat of,
Mhm,
if I essentially in my head I'm thinking they're feeling anxiety about the potential for embarrassment and anxiety about the potential for guilt.
mhm.
And then you've got this cycle of, and then if I stay off, I just create more
Yeah,
one, and if I
yeah,
go in for this one, so you get the spiral.
yeah.
Uh, and that, I mean, that's what was going on in the back of my head during this.
Mhm.
And again, that's why I suppose looking at it from a perspective of, I don't want to make something somebody's fault. I use the term responsibility, not blame.
Yeah, yeah. And you put that back to me several times, who, and you're responsible for this. And it was that sort of amplified complex reflection there where I'm looking at it and you realize, and it felt right, yes, it is, it's my fault. Who else is it going to be? But it was helpful to hear it, because actually when you sit with that at the same time, you realize there's a little bit of, gosh, I'm being very hard on myself.
Mm,
And even if it's just a wee flash, it's still a drip of something that you might not have occurred to you before.
yeah. Do you know, it's always important to finish these things strong. I wonder what would be a strong finish if you were sat here with somebody who's just listened through all of that and had your experience of training in MI, and you were going to say to them how this has potentially impacted your work, impacted, you know, your ability to manage difficulty in work and stuff like that. Why has this made a difference for you, Claire?
I connect with people so much better now than I did before. I genuinely feel that my my conversations are focused in their intent, and that I'm consciously trying to be helpful. And I start that I am helpful, more helpful, because I start with what would be helpful for you. And that has been transformative, because prior to that, and I'm relatively new in this career, but prior to that, I was so focused on my agenda and what I needed to do, and whether it's box ticking, form filling, get the job done, get this referral in, whatever it was. And the pressures that come with that, maybe the pressures to be seen to be helpful, all of that, which just is not helpful at all, because it wasn't about the person. And equally, the kids can often get lost in the more complex these things get, the more stressed the systems get. The child can get lost in the middle of all of that. And MI provides me with a way of keeping them front and center. And I think it is an important thing to acknowledge that there is no magic wand. And this is a very, to my mind, it's a respectful, effective way of finding out what would be helpful for them. And to my mind, that's, if we can be a part of that, that's a job well done. So, because systems are stretched and we can all only do so much. So yeah, it has definitely helped with being helpful.
I'm going to end on this, and I think the point you made about there is no magic wand, I think actually they have the magic wand, and maybe we need to start viewing ourselves as the beautiful assistant that Paul Daniel pulls up on stage. We're there to help out. We're not there to do the magic.
Yeah.
And that's what MI is. It gives us a framework for helping out.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Claire.
Thanks, Hugh.